Broadcasting live, this is the Handicappers Report, brought to you by the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany, and CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Handicappers Report alongside Seth Merrow. I am Anthony Mormino, returning after...
Welcome back.
Yes.
We were just talking while we were off the air. You had a little racetrack. How'd it go?
And it was phenomenal. It's very rare I say this in life. Keeneland in particular, I wish I had done it 30 years ago. There's little chance I will miss any meet ever again.
Keeneland's very nice. I would say it's Saratoga with a much more modern facility. There's a buzz in the place every day.
And I will say this. I have not been to the Masters yet, but I would rather on a sunny, warm day on a Saturday at Keeneland, which I was lucky to experience, it's the sports venue I would want to be at more than any other. It is by far the greatest racetrack in America. The young people, the place was packed. How about this? General admission tickets, which are $10, were on sale. I looked it up on Vivid Seats for $1.50 on Saturday. 15 times for general admission. No seat, no anything, $150. And here's a couple. It was glorious. I was kicking myself so much for not having gone. But let's backtrack. Well, first I went to Antietam, National Battlefield, the single worst day in the history of America. And then I drove east to Laurel. And I'll say this about Laurel. The inside of the track is the best you can imagine. The best public men's bathroom I've ever. It's glorious. I see Brian Nadeau, our friend and colleague on the TV screen. I text him when he gets done doing a race, and he goes, they did it so right at Laurel.
I agree as well. I have said when they said this whole thing, we're going to go to Pimlico. Man, Laurel is a really nice race.
Stunning. I saw Bob Caceres down there. It's so clean. It's elegant. It was flawless, the inside of the building. I could not believe it. Free parking, by the way, free entrance like that. Unlike Golden Gate, that was 10 and 10.
The parking lot better when I was there years ago.
No, the parking lot. Yeah, and if you ever don't know, parking lots are an extraordinary expense to fix. I mean, it's one of the highest. But Laurel was fantastic. I was so glad I was there. I took pictures. We're not going to show. I mean, it could definitely host a Breeders' Cup, and I've always said because of the DC International, they should. It was fantastic day to spend at the racetrack. So then I drove west, and Charlestown had a night card, as they usually do, and I was talking to our director, Dan, worst post-position drag in the industry. And I don't understand how it can be that valuable. And I'll use this as an example. When COVID first hit, and for those who don't know, I'm a waiter in the world, and they changed the rules about people having to leave restaurants. And human beings adapted to it. My point being, run the post time at the same time. They will adapt to betting to it. So I go over now. They only have 10 stalls because it's a bull ring. And by the way, the bull ring is not that dramatic of a visual watching the race as normal races. It's not like I anticipated. There was time up the backstretch. It was fine. So they have 10 stalls, and I'm looking at 7 o'clock. I look on the program, it's 7 o'clock. And the announcer says, not we've adjusted to 7:05. He says, post time 7:05. They're not going to make 7:05. They make 7:10, 7:11. And I'm like, there's no way the human experience would not adapt to non-post time drag. So all these people that run racetracks are wrong, and it's a disservice, and it's poor customer care.
Well, we've watched big days just recently over in Europe where they have the
clock
second. They're going down, and they're in, and they're in and gone when that gets to zero, and that I totally agree.
Many years ago, somebody told me there's a penalty for the racetrack if they run post time wrong. So I went to Charlestown. Now here's Charlestown. Charlestown, the racetrack and the macadam and everything, pristine, gorgeous. I walked in, you could have knocked me over with a feather. It was so beautiful. There inside, first off, you have to be the greatest detective in the world to find the horse racing part. I opened 3 doors. I was wrong. I finally go into the casino and say to the guy, I said, listen, I want to go to the racetrack. He goes, the long way or the short way? I go, I know the short way is through the casino. I said, so the long way. I go, and honestly, I had to wait for somebody to open a door. And I followed them, and it was about as big as our studio here for the racetrackers. Theirs is great on the outside, not great on the inside. Laurel is fantastic on the what I think they call the plant. Fantastic. And then Keeneland is the greatest place on earth. The people that work there were so gracious. How's this? The Keeneland shop, it's like the most popular club in New York City. There's a line out the door, and when people leave, the guy will be like, chewing your party? Come on in and shop. It is nothing like racing anywhere. It is so glorious. Now, here's this. So I'm on the first floor. The percentage of women at Laurel and West Virginia was about 1 to 3%. At Keeneland, it was 50%. The average age in the grandstand first floor was about 22. I did not see one program. I don't think one person bet. I would love to see the on-track handle of Keeneland. There's at least 10,000 people that don't bet $100 combined. They had no programs. They had no racing form. I saw them on their phones. They weren't on anybody's app. I don't know what they do, but here's the even better part.
It wasn't college day, was it?
No, that was my first thought.
They get a good young crowd, but
they don't bet.
College day.
They don't even know where the windows are, these people. But here's another thing. So you come off the exit. Now, I make a right-hand turn. First thing I know is, without a sign, I go, that's Calumet. And it is as glorious as people write about. It's clearly Calumet. I drive down the road. I see the sign. It's right next to Keeneland. You can't miss it. Gate 1 is free parking. They call it the Hill. This became popular in the 2015 Breeders' Cup. So I thought, you're on the hill. You look down. You can't see anything. It's packed.
These people bet on the hill,
yes,
right? Yeah.
These people are playing cornhole. They are tailgating like it's polo or a football game. They couldn't tell you what direction the racetrack is. It's packed. The women are dressed up. I said to my friend from Atlanta, it's the first time since I'm 16 years old I feel underdressed. I will be there in October. Health stands up. I will not miss a day at their track ever again. It was as great a day as there's ever been for yours truly. And I have had a very fortunate life and have had great days. And I thought to myself, Seth, I first thought I was at Charlestown. How many people had gone to Flemington Racecourse and Charlestown in the same year? I was thinking maybe one.
I would not dispute that. I don't know. But
I'm at Charlestown going, anybody been to Flemington? It was one of the best decisions I made. And then I went up to Progressive Field. I watched a baseball game. And this is how good horse racing is that people are going to miss, Seth. In 1989, I met this gentleman. He lives in Atlanta. He's from Cleveland. We've been friends for 34 years. We go to Breeders' Cups. And he tells me a pizza joint to go to. I'm in Lexington. He tells me a pizza joint to go to. He raves about it. When you say it's the best pizza in the world, that's a big limb. And he was right. So you meet somebody in Saratoga that lives in Atlanta.
Pays dividends.
You're at Lexington, and he tells you a pizza joint in Cleveland. Good luck from going from home and texting in bets to get that relationship. But I would say this, Seth. I know you. If you're watching this show, you must go to Keeneland. If you get a glorious day as I got, and my friend has connections, he gets me into the paddock, which is nothing like Saratoga's, gets me into the winner's circle, which is, I actually pictured Seth, because if you watch the network in the summer, you can always see Seth after the stakes race getting pictures. I felt like Seth Merrow. I'm like, I belong. Here I am. Keeneland. It was.
Oh, isn't your friend the contest player? Was he there playing in the? Yeah. Because Howard Kravitz, I had Howard on the show a couple of weeks ago from the HHH Racing podcast, and there was a contest also on Friday, and then a big one on a Saturday, and he kind of placed in both of them. Howard did.
What's funny is my friend has killed me for years of not going to Keeneland, and so I didn't tell him. So I'm in the paddock. It's about 11 o'clock. I get into the shop early. There wasn't a line at 11 o'clock. And I said, so what are you up to? So. He goes, what are you up to? How's Denise and everything? I go, well, I'm at the paddock and I don't see you. He goes, what paddock? I go, Keeneland. He goes, you made it? I said, I'm here. And it was, prices were 1990 style at Naira. Pretty good.
No,
but I
agree. It's like I say, to me, it's Saratoga-ish with the feel of the place, but a much more modern facility.
I would love to know what the on-track handle is, because I'm telling you, Seth, I saw 5,000 people didn't bet $10. They had no idea. If they're dressed up, boys, girls, young men, young women, and they are just like, they only need to print about 3,000 programs. They have 25,000 at the track, but I was shocked at that because I've never seen it. I haven't been to Gulfstream on a B. I've never seen that before where people don't bet, but they were not betting.
I would say, comparing that to me, that's an outlier. Keeneland does, for whatever reason, get a very young crowd, and that's a thing with them. And that college day, and I mentioned that there is a college day, I think in both spring and the fall.
I think
but they give out scholarships, I think, during the afternoon. So,
and I will tell you, as I looked at all these young people, Seth, I was thinking, they do not know the history of Keeneland. They none of that appeals to them. So you have to find out to them what drove them to be here. They weren't there for the Jenny Wiley. They don't even know who Jenny Wiley is. They're not there for the Lexington Stakes. They're not there for the Giants Causeway. It's not. So you got to find out from them what drive. It wasn't grade one racing that drove them to Keeneland. So my point is, since that's the one thing you can't replicate is the quality of racing, you got to find out, why are you here? It's not the horse racing. You're not paying attention.
I don't know whether it is replicatable, if that's a word, because I think the same thing, though, at
Gulfstream has better weather.
Saratoga at the Travers. You go in the backyard and you got a bunch of young people at the picnic tables, and I don't know whether they're big rate, but it's just, hey, there's a party here this day. And I think Keeneland for 3 weeks, the Lexington College people are like, we got to get over there for a few times.
No college kids in LA care about Santa Anita.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't replicate it.
Well, you got to find out what it is.
But I think
why are you here?
I think it's just that somehow it started, it became a thing, and then it's just a thing. I don't know if it's something.
I know you went to communication school. I went to business school. I was like, Saratoga used to be a white elephant, and then they changed it. They did things, and Saratoga went from being a loss leader at Naira, 8,000 people at the track versus 60,000 at Belmont, and they flipped it on its head.
Maybe it's something you could point to. I don't know if it's just.
Got to ask the kids.
I think it's just,
why are you here?
Like things on social media go viral. I don't know whether there's a formula that makes that happen or it just organically happens. I think maybe it organically happened at some of these venues. I don't know whether you can replicate it.
I think they went there to drink. I don't think they know which end of the horse is up. I don't think they care about anything else. So
I think the backyard at Travers Day at Saratoga, there's a lot of those same types of people. Although I think they bet. Maybe not a lot, but I think there is, but that's, they were there for the one day and the big day. And so I think they'll at least put a little money on the big race.
I didn't see one kid with a program. It was amazing. I was like, why are you here? I mean, it was amazing. And I got to tell you another thing. They didn't really pay attention when the horse race happened. They just kept doing what they were doing. They do not care. Bottom line, if you have the chance, go. Don't wait. Go. If you enjoy horse racing, I'm telling you, Seth, there's nothing like it. And I grew up here, and I love Saratoga in the summer, but Keeneland.
Oaklawn, I'll throw that one in. You've been to a track I want to go to, Santa Anita.
Oh.
views and whatnot. Del Mar, I want to get out there. But yeah, the Keeneland I've been to. Oaklawn,
Now, I will say this, and we've talked about this part. It's my understanding that Del Mar's opening day is very much like Keeneland. They barely know horse racing is going on. It's a cultural event. So that's it. And I know my boss is probably worrying, but we're going to make the clock. But it was a great experience. I mean, it's unbelievable, Seth. I've never seen a line waiting to get into a shop at horse racing. And the line wasn't short.
And I like that. Party of two. All right.
Yes.
We will now seat you by the polo shirts.
And their clubhouse is truly a club. You can't.
Yeah.
You don't get in.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to take a look at Keeneland in a few. And speaking of which, top of the hour, Racing Across America, we'll be joined by Ed DeRosa from Horse Racing Nation. He's with Horse Racing Nation, but if you go to the Keeneland website, he does picks for Keeneland every racing day there. So I thought we'd get some thoughts on the stakes at Keeneland today from him. He's on his way to Chicago, and the the Illinois Derby is tomorrow with a win, and you're in for the Preakness.
Is this like the first one in like 8 years?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure how many years, but you're right. It is the first one in a while. And then we're also going to be joined by John Piasek because I wanted some thoughts on Laurel today because the Tessio is also a win, and you're in for the Preakness. And there's a nice slate of stakes at Laurel today. But
Turf course look gorgeous.
They don't call it win and you're in. They call it
it's Preakness, right?
Win today and we see you in May.
Okay,
I guess win and you're in was taken.
And it's for the Derby, right? The Tessio gets you to the Preakness. Yeah.
You're right. The turf course is there.
Luscious.
That's why I sit there and say this Pimlico thing baffles me. But all right, that catches us up. Let's take a look at the opener at Aqueduct. Maiden specials going 6. Your thoughts on race 1?
A couple of things. We keep moving on now. We both got Mo Cruz home in the Commonwealth 2 weeks ago at Keeneland for our friend house. One quick note. Today is opening day scheduled to be for the turf. They have a long season to go. I thought they were going to sparse out. They have 3 on today. One of them looks like the type you shouldn't be running if you're going to run until July on the turf courses. I mean, but let's go at it. Turf racing is supposed to be, and they've obviously made on Talking Horses, they've denoted that it's April 20th. 654 as we continue our march. I think we're good for almost 26 months now, but I think this is an intriguing race because for me, this is the old Mount Everest race, maybe 1.5. You have Treaty Obligation making the 6th career start from the rail. All right, has consistent buyer speed figures that would trounce this field. Hasn't started since the Spa, though. Then you have Cage Match, who I'm looking at running less well after debuting at nearly 8-1, comes back at 8-5. So this is really a Mount Everest 1.5. So as you see, 654. I took a first-time starter for Wayne Potts. 2 things that I like particularly. One is I started talking about it last summer, and the other is he's an offspring of Munnings, who is one of the big 3 sons of Spicetown, who I think is going to make Spicetown the rare sire of sires. But mano a mano, it's the workouts 3 or 4 back that are sharp, and the ones closest, particularly the most recent one, I'll just say more dull, let's say. But I started the idea, and it was successful last year at Saratoga, that it's not the most recent workout that I want to be the buzz. It's one that kind of showed the trainer, I got this. And the trainer recognizes it and says, well, I don't need to keep pushing the envelope. And you go back to March 17th, and we had a zinger out of the gate from mano a mano. Dylan Davis, 12-1, taking a shot with the 6. Cage Match, less well angled today, 8-5. And for third, the 4 going out for Jimmy Ryerson. Third start in a cycle after 2 races as a baby, 654.
Race number 2 on this Saturday afternoon. We're looking at conditional claimers going 3/4 of a mile.
I am 561 here. We're taking the blinkers off. Ghostly Girl, John Toscano. This is something that we in New York over the last 5 years have had to get used to, which is starter allowance races, which didn't exist on this circuit when I was, first 40 years I was paying attention to racing in New York. But now it's here. And my solid opinion is the starter allowances are much deeper than lower claiming levels. Forget restricted claiming levels. So for me, Ghostly Girl gets a much softer spot in here, and I think scores the victory with Sammy Camacho. Keep It Sexy going out for Chris Engelhardt off of the maiden win. That was for a tag. 13th start. Chris Engelhardt, obviously a very sharp horseman, goes to the next level, which is the 2L, and then Army of Thoughts. Army Mule, you'd be very interested, Seth. You remember he was the horse for Pletcher that only had 3 career starts? I think he won the Carter, right? And that was it. Right, yeah. You know, he had layoff lines, had a lot of talent, always ran big numbers. I think he was 3 for 3 in his career. See what kind of runners he throws over the long haul.
Seems to be doing okay.
Yes, he does. He seems to be giving them the brilliance as it is. We'll see if they put together healthier careers.
Third race this afternoon, State Bred Maiden Specials going 7 furlongs. Our friend Lee Einsiedler in here with the morning line favorite Shlomo for Bill Mott.
I have him for second. I mean,
he's not the favorite. The 3's right. The favorite.
He was the type of solid in debut. I'm not necessarily expecting the Less Well, because the Less Well actually happened inside the 8th pole. So maybe I got it out of the way. He's my second pick, unlike the first race where I tossed the Chad Brown runner making the first start since July. I'm 3-6-1. Silver Satin, they add blinkers. This is the 3rd career start. Yes, I have back-to-back seconds beaten, but I think those races, I've called this set the Aldebaran or Aldebaran. If you remember the year before he wasn't the champion, he strung like 7 seconds in a row, but his wasn't second-itis. Each time he lost, a different combatant put in an unbelievable performance. And then the next year, he kind of ran the same, but the contestants didn't run big, and he won a sprint championship. His was not second-itis. I like Silver Satin. For second, Shlomo making the 2nd career start. The offspring of Freud, who has clearly become, I'd have to say, Seth, the all-time finest New York bred stallion. I mean, he's been King Kong for the last 5 years. But if you think of the New York bred program as about 45 years old, he seems to be the best. And for third, Boss Tweed, speaking of New York, 3-6-1.
4th race this afternoon, we're looking again at conditional claimers. They will travel the 1-turn mile.
3-1-5 for me, and Union Lights goes out for Wayne Potts. Comes out of a mile effort in the 3L. Competitive there. For a second, number 1, Jeeper, who is scheduled to break from the number 6 post position here. Comes out of a 2-turn victory for Jamie Ness down at Parks. And for third, Uncle Waterflow. Pat Reynolds' runner won by a pole in the 2L at 3-4. 3-1-5 in the 4th.
Yeah, I just pulled up my stats from the end of last year for sires of first-time runners. And Army Mule last year, 45 first-time runners, 11 wins, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So 16 exacta finishes from 45 first-time starters.
And I think I had one of them at Saratoga.
He's gotten up to a pretty good start.
You figured if he was going to do something that as a stallion, that would be his ballywag.
Yeah. But we're up to race 5, correct?
Yeah, turf season.
Race 5 does kick off the turf action in New York this year. Maiden Specials scheduled for 8.5 on the grass.
And as I was typing away to send it into the guys, I had to look if maybe I was turning pages too quickly, but 3-1-5 again. This is the type of race, I expect to see upper level allowance and maiden special weight races. 3-1-5 to kick off the turf season. And just one more is a first-time starter that, to me, could even going out for Horatio DePaz, I think could fly under the radar. We do not talk, Seth, about turf stallions. Manila couldn't get a job as a stallion. I think he ended up dying in Turkey. Even though we have far more turf racing now, turf stallions, and Seth loves the subset of the 3-year-olds on the turf, but turf stallion to commercial breeders. But I'm going to tell you something. English Channel has outrun that prejudice. He has been an extremely good stallion, and I have missed the boat with many of these runners. I'm taking a flyer here with just one more, the familiar black and white silks for Barry Schwartz. For second, Grayosh going out for Chad Brown, makes the third career start, lost rider in the second one. Even money on the board. And for third, Chantilly Road going out for Chad Brown. It's funny because in Kentucky, the street that Keeneland's on is, they pronounce it Versailles. And obviously it's Versailles over there. Here I'm calling it Chantilly Road. Over there it's called Chantilly. 315.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll complete Aqueduct, and then we'll move on to Keeneland for this Saturday afternoon. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Falbrough. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish to the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to the Handicappers Report. Seth, Merrow, Anthony Mormino taking a look at the Saturday action, and we will continue with race number 6 at Aqueduct. It is one of those starter allowances you referred to earlier.
Yes.
6 furlongs is the distance.
And by the way, if you like ball fields, Progressive Field in Cleveland was outstanding. 647-19 Oysters, my pick here. Medium price shot, adding blinkers. Third start, sent Saratoga cycling in for Rob Atras, who has certainly had a very good first quarter of 2024. Clubhouse, speaking of Keeneland, second start since January. Love the comeback race. I won't even call it a freshing anymore. And then 7. So 6-4-7 in the 6th.
7th race, optional claimer. Now there's a 2 other than the condition. 1 mile is the distance.
135, part of the entry scheduled to break for the number 4 post is Power Seeker for Linda Rice. At nearly 10-1, tied for second place most recently. For second, Chad Brown sends out the 3. The Judd-Mount runner, first start since July. I told you all this past summer, I don't care about layoffs anymore. And quite frankly, Seth, I don't even care what barn it is. It used to be so microscopic, the barns that could do it. And Chad was in that group, but I don't care anymore. And then my Champagne pick of 18 months ago, Blazing Sevens, 135, who, by the way, hasn't won since the Champagne.
Stakes action in race 8, stakes action on the turf. It is the Danger's Hour, $150,000 up for grabs, and they'll go a mile on the grass.
Francis Genter?
Danger's Hour?
Soft blue with the unbridled silks, I think. It doesn't matter. 157, just...
I would have said John Veach and...
Darby Dan?
Darby Dan,
I don't think...
I'll look it up later.
Okay. 157. Right. Mile races are on the inner turf course. Chad Brown sends out the 1. Has had only 1 start since the day after Veterans Day. As I said, I don't care about layoff. What I do like is he's an offspring of Kingman. I have the Kingman Exacta here. One of the few things I was ahead of the curve. Kingman's middle distance, mile 16th. Chad Brown's other offspring of Kingman making the 4th career start is the 5 coming off the allowance victory in February. And for 3rd, Dakota Gold, Danny Gargan's New York bred making the first start since the Mohawk, 157.
We'll wrap it up on Saturday on the grass as well. 5:40, the scheduled post time. State bred allowance non-winners are 1. 6 furlongs on the grass.
815 Dusk making the 4th career start, first seasonal one for Horatio DePaz. The 3-year-old filly gets Lasix today for the first time. Won what ended up being the turf debut after trying to get on it twice. For second, number 1, Beach Cruiser for Christophe Clement, making the seasonal debut. And for third, a stone's throw away, could be sneaky good in here. And what I want to say about Dust, I want to say it quickly. Remember, I have said that I'd like to talk to trainers off the record. He stayed in those first 2 races off the turf, and you were thinking, do they just want to not lose their spot in line?
Yeah.
815 in the finale.
And for folks who don't know that, if you stick in, you're then when the turf race does come up, you get first preference. So neither one of us. I will list the
Rokeby?
I have.
Yeah, it was my second choice.
I was going to list the jockey and the trainer, Jerry Bailey and Mac Miller.
I would have given it away. But Rokeby was my second choice.
All right, we'll head to another break. When we come back, Keeneland, stay tuned.
Yeah, that was nice.
Haven't signed up for a Capital OTB account yet? Now's the time to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. Open up a new account with $200 or more, bet $400 by the end of the month, and receive a bonus $200 into your account. Plus, you can take advantage of everything an OTB account has to offer. Wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, past performances, online promotions, and more. Sign up today and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com. There's no better place to enjoy horse racing action than the Capital OTB Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany, just minutes off of I-90. The Clubhouse Racebook features over 200 flat-screen TVs, bringing you racing action from across the country, plus all the major sporting events. Racing info, tip sheets, promotions and events, track odds, plenty of parking, and a full bar and restaurant. Stop by today. Capital OTB's Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Completely different idea in my head now when I say this. Starter allowance going a mile and a 16th in the opener.
6, 7, 8, and 2. I'm going to put West Coast Harbor on top. I thought, I like the Oaklawn horses at this meet. I thought they've done all right. And this one showed a little speed in the second career start down at Oaklawn before fading. That might bode well on the extra little drop in class today. So at a price, I'll take a shot in a field where I don't think anybody's jumping off the page. Number 7, She's Always Rosie in the second spot. Tried this kind of company over at Turfway last time and ran a good third as the beaten favorite. Subsequently comes in with a bullet workout. So I think She's Always Rosie, also an intriguing player in here. And Golden Sense is the sire of Golden Degree, has not lived up to that yet. But now goes maiden special weight to maiden claiming. 4-1 seems a little short, though. With Golden Sense and the class move, I find this horse interesting. But at 4-1, a little bit light. I'm hoping it goes up a little bit because I may play around with that one. But I have it 6, 7, 8, and 2.
And for the record, it'll be noted that my first day at Keeneland, the grade 1 was run by a $50 horse.
Which
Satori, Bo Centaur.
Oh yeah.
I put on the front end, milked it, walked in the sleep.
Yeah.
That
was the Chad horse, right?
Yeah, the other Chad horse. The
other Chad. People were saying on Twitter. Yeah.
The fourth race, 2-year-olds going 4.5.
And Chad, after the race in the winner's circle, he was asked, "Well, the betting public was surprised. Were you surprised?" He said, "No, I wasn't really surprised. The horse is talented. On the front end, I was a little surprised." And he said, as we're walking out of the paddock, Frankie Dettori says to me, "I'm going to go to the lead." And Chad said, "I hesitated for a second. I thought, I'm not going to tell Frankie what to do. So, a good move.
Well, also the other thing was in the line, if it was a long, you're like, well, 6-5, we might have another conversation or something.
Yeah. Second race for me, 1, 6, 11, and 2. Ice Water on top. Sharp Aztec is one of those sires that I think is interesting with win early types. Now, this goes back a few years, but again, I think worth taking a look at. And this horse showed nice progression, start 1 to start 2. In the third start of the career, if that continues, and I don't think that's out of the question, this horse could be very interesting. Maybe a little bit of a price. Tyler Gaffleone on board, who obviously riding well at the Keeneland meet. Classy and Connected comes in off some races as well at Turfway and some pretty good races, and certainly makes sense of the last 3 that have had a progression going in the right direction. Should have the horse primed. And then Winnacaching in the third spot. Dale Roman's runner that had I thought, a decent-looking debut over at Turfway last time. One to build on, perhaps. And the first-time starter from Shug, the 2-horse Sailing. I want to mention that one because I think we will get a price. But I think nice, steady string of workouts down at Payson. Comes up from Florida for this start and could be a little bit intriguing in this, restricted company maiden special event. I have it 1, 6, 11, and 2.
On to the third, Fillies and Mares, a mile on the turf.
4, 5, 6, and 3. I'm going to put Mr. Skylight on top. Goes out for Riley Mott. Limited number of starters at the meet, but doing okay. Coming up from Gulfstream off 2 good efforts. Nice debut effort. Ran second that day behind Beeline, who I think could be a nice one. And then comes right back to win in the second start. So the first 2 were very promising. We'll see if that continues this afternoon. But in and against this bunch, I think the horse definitely has a little bit of an edge. Nick Storm going out for Ben Colebrook off a couple of starts so far this season. One at Oaklawn and has already started up here at Keeneland in an improved effort off the Oaklawn start. So now third start back, improvement start 1 to start 2 so far. So I think Nick Storm could be interesting. And then Iridescent in the third spot. Irod Ortiz hops on board for David Jacobson, runner coming in from New York. I think class-wise is going to stack up nicely with this bunch. Comes in off a second in the Jimmy Winkfield back in January, and a near miss in February again at Aqueduct in a nice try, an optional claimer where the horse was not in for the tag. Gets in for the tag today, but the tag $100,000. So, the class move is debate for yourself if somebody's going to dip in for this horse. But I think there's certainly enough talent there. And Irod on board at tracks as well. Third race at Keeneland, 4, 5.
Did I see someplace they have maiden claim is 150? Is that Southern California, Santa Anita?
That sounds right.
50?
I think I did see one of those at some point within the last, I don't know how long, but yeah. I think
Interesting. On to the fourth, entry level allowance, 5.5 on turf.
1, 3, 7, and 4. Royal Flower on top. Steve Asmussen trainee with Frankie Dettori on board. Nice win 2 back at Ellis. That was in June of last year. Then laid off, and the start prior to that was in June of 2022. So clearly there were issues. That June Ellis win subsequently was followed up in March of this year with a near miss at 10-1 in an improved effort number-wise. And now we get to string a couple together. So I think the horse is interesting in here on the fact that, again, with the stops and starts earlier in the career, now we're putting a couple together. Royal Flower could be an interesting player. Cloudwalker in the second spot for Brendan Walsh off a debut win right here at Keeneland last October. These are the kind that I always say have the potential to come back, even improve. Lightly raced 2-year-old, lightly raced 3-year-old. They get a little break, and then they come back. They can move forward. And this horse doesn't have to move too much forward to be a real player in here. And then Candy Bar in the third spot. Raylu on board. Raylu Gutierrez, who's been riding this horse regularly down at the fairgrounds for Brett Calhoun, and doing so, hitting the board. And this horse is in the mix far more often than not. 5 in-the-money finishes in 7 career starts. My question last time went to 2 turns, and sometimes that'll dull the speed a little bit next time out, but there are good sprints underneath. So I'm going to put this horse in the mix as well in the fourth at Keeneland, 1, 3, 7, and 4.
And by the way, they're doing significant renovations, I think, at Keeneland. And I knew this going in, and I think it's in the 8 figures. It's a very expansive one. I was like, Why? I mean, I'm not good. Like when somebody says we're going to knock down this wall and build this out, I don't see it in my mind. But I was looking around. It's like sometimes you go to a place, you're like, well, you can do this, that, the other thing. I'm looking at there going, what are you doing? I mean, it's something else. On to the fifth. Claimers 32,000 on the dirt, going 9.
6-8-2-1 systemic change on top. A little bit of a layoff from early December till early March. The comebacker was okay for Chad Brown and Klarovich, but it is Chad, it is Klarovich. They're dropping in for this tag this afternoon. I think the horse is going to be well spotted for a good effort with Irad Ortiz on board. From Another Mother in the second spot, Ray Handel, trainee, spent the winter down at the fairgrounds in Allowance Company and ran pretty well. Now comes up here, drops in for this tag. Another one that I think is going to be well spotted in with this bunch. And Divine Armor going out for David Jacobson. So a trio of New York-based trainers on top for me in here, all with similar situations, making a class move that I think will be beneficial, and all with potent jocks on top. Irad Ortiz on Systemic Change, Dettori on From Another Mother, and Luis Saez on Divine Armor in the fifth. 6-8-2-1.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, second half of today's action from Keeneland.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the sixth race at Keeneland. Mile on the turf, 2X.
I wrote at the top of the page, this is kind of a guessing game for me, but I did wind up on Sacred Wish. I do think this is the best one in here for George Weaver. Comes in off a try last fall in the Pebbles and a near miss. And I think just lots of stakes races underneath, and this has the feel of a little bit of a stakes race. But I do think this horse has a little bit of an edge in this bunch. But at 15-1, I put One Silk Stocking just underneath. Was in the Doug O'Neill barn out at Santa Anita, comes east. I like these runners on the move from Southern California east to either New York, but I think Keeneland can be productive as well. I'm not familiar with the trainer, I must admit, but I think this horse is a player off that Southern California form and maybe at a little bit of a price. And Freitas, the red, going out for Kenny McPeak. Stakes try in the seasonal debut down at the fairgrounds. It wasn't anything to write home about, but I think there's some back class here that says with that one under the belt, this horse could be interesting. So as I say, I kind of tilted towards a logical play on top, but I have a couple of horses that I think could be interesting underneath in a race that I think has the potential to prove interesting. In the sixth, I have a 10-4, 1, and 11.
And on to the seventh. Probably the only thing I don't like at Keeneland is the about 7 furlongs. I've talked about this before. This is like they call it the beard course or something. It's 7 furlongs plus 184 feet. At least they tell me that much exactly. So on to the seventh.
5, 3, 6, and 7. Illicit Intention on top. Robbie Medina runner coming off a couple of third place finishes down at Oaklawn. And again, I like the Oaklawn runners as they're moving to other venues as their season, moves towards the finale. This one comes out of what could be an interesting race with the next out winner having won it. And again, I thought the two third-place finishes were both good enough number-wise to point to this horse at a little bit of an interesting price, perhaps. Second spot, Soundbite. Brad Cox, first-time starter by Audible. Steady string of workouts, couple under there are looking pretty good. So I think this horse, will be well met in the debut. And the fact of the matter is, with Brad Cox training, it's going to take some action anyway. Lightning Bolt on top. Lightning Bolt in the third spot, but at 15-1, interesting from Norm Cassie off a debut effort down at the fairgrounds. That was a fourth-place finish in a field of 10, so that the top half of the field had a little trouble there. I think this horse could be intriguing. Went off at 4-1 that day, so took a little action, obviously, in a 10-horse field. Bolt the Oro, a good sire of win early types. And again, a price the Norm Cassie runner worth taking a look. In the seventh, 5, 3, 6, and 7.
On to the eighth, keeping the stakes action rolling. 12 furlongs on the turf, the Elkhorn.
4, 10, 5, and 11. Number 4 is Bold Act, and it's a Charlie Appleby runner for Godolphin, coming off a big win at Meydan in Dubai. It's Charlie Appleby, turf runner, Frankie Dettor. There's just the obvious things to like, and if you didn't hear, Charlie Appleby's going to have a string in the United States. They're going to be based up at Saratoga this year, so I'm sure we'll see plenty of them at Saratoga. But Bold Act looks legit for Appleby. Missed the cut for John Sadler, coming in from Southern California off a couple of stakes wins out at Santa Anita. I think is absolutely a player. And Mike Maker has Dyna Drive, 20-1. I think the win at Sam Houston 2 back in the Connolly was pretty good. Followed that up in the McDermott at Gulfstream, not quite as good, but I thought a better effort from this one in this bunch could get this one in the mix at a little bit of a price. In the 8th, 4, 10, 5, and 11.
On Twitter, somebody had a great line that turf racing is an ATM for Charles Appleby in America. I did not go to the Keeneland Library. I was tight on a schedule, which is fine, but the next time, I've learned a lot. Next time is probably be 2 days at Keeneland with the wife, and I'm going to do some work at the Keeneland Library. Unfortunately, in our game, it's like the lone reference source that there is for whatever reason.
Yeah, you can pull off the shelf what old racing forums, I think. It was a very tight schedule, so I didn't actually get any reconnaissance work on there, but apparently it's a very liberal set of going in. You don't have to make appointments. You don't have to have credentials. It's very welcoming. Barbara Livingston gave that.
The Rafferty photos?
Yeah, I think she gave those to the library.
And I know when the Daily Racing Forum gave their entire history of them to Keeneland. And I guess
which I think they're digitizing as well.
At a rate that they are, but they're not. I mean, it's been, I don't know if the money dried up or something, but they were supposed to digitize.
Yeah, it's not a small project.
No,
obviously.
no, it's not. On to Keeneland, the other feature of the day. When I was a kid, young adult, used to call the Ben Ali, but it's the Ben Ally on the dirt, 1 mile and 3/16.
4.92 and 3. Kings Barnes. There were a couple of horses yesterday racing that I said the same thing. These are now, you get the 3-year-olds who are now kind of moving into the 4-year-old season and trying to make a name for themselves, potentially to be players in the handicap division. There were a couple of them yesterday that were interesting, and Kings Barn is in that group. The 4-year-old debut down at Gulfstream, an optional claimer, was a nice gutsy win at 3-5, but it was a close-up win at 3-5. I think it was legit. I think it was a good way to start off the 4-year-old season off a fairly long layup of pretty much the last half of 2023. I think Kings Barnes steps up and says, I'll be a player in the handicap division with a win this afternoon. War Campaign comes in off a try in a stakes down at Oaklawn in the last race and ran a good second in the Essex behind First Mission. I think that race sets this one up well for a good try this afternoon. And Surly Furious in the third spot comes in off a couple of stakes tries recently at Turfway, won a win and won a 6th place finish. But again, I think this horse typically throws races that are going to mix it up nicely with this particular group. I will say Smile Happy. I was on this horse in the 2 races down at the fairgrounds, and so Seth off kind of angle. We'll see what the horse does this afternoon, but I liked it in both of those fairgrounds races and really didn't live up to that love there. So we'll see what Smile Happy does this afternoon, but I have it 4, 9, 2, and 3.
You know, it's funny with King's Barn, you see the Derby line and you see Mage, and I know the game has changed, the horses have changed, but through the 60s and 70s and 80s, Seth, we never had, not counting horses that got injured, never had a Derby winner that didn't win another race. Now it's like every other Derby, like we've had, you know, Rich Strike and Mage never win again. I think it was Go for Gin in 94 that started, like we never had a Derby winner that had a campaign never win again. Animal Kingdom never won on dirt again. I think people get lost in that, but I'll tell you something. I made an acquaintance at the Breeders' Cup last year, and I saw him at Keeneland on Saturday, who was a part owner of Mage. Now, he's the kind of guy, he's like a money guy, not a horse racing guy. So I had said to him at the Breeders' Cup, I don't think you're ever stepping on a racetrack again. And he was like aghast. And so I saw him and I said, you know, how's the financial part of it going? He's like, you know, okay, like everything. And I said, you know, welcome to the world of a Derby winner that, you know, just never win. I remember when we talked about Giacomo once, I think he went like 1 for 15. He won the San Diego. And it's really become like, I see King's Barn there and he's trying to start like Act 2. And you're like, oh, well, maybe it's back in the pack but these winners are like, they're stiff.
Well,
they're like,
where did Forgo finish?
4th, right? After he hit he's making a move on the inside and he gets bumped off the rail and still re-rallies. And as Dick Powell would say, Dick's the biggest, he wasn't Forgo yet. Now people don't remember on the undercard of Secretariat's Day, he set a track record in an allowance race. He was starting to become Forgo, but he wasn't right there. But I think he finished 4th. Paul Atkinson on board. You can see him just bang off the rail like
my all-time favorite horse. That's the
he
horse
took Forgo inside, but that's it. But you know, I see Mage, and I'm like, you know, who are coming out of this Derby? The winners are not where to look anymore, which is not what we grew up with.
Yeah, no.
I mean, 2-year-old champions in the 70s. I think they won like 4 or 5 Kentucky Derbies. Now it's like
Fierceness is looking pretty good, though.
I will say the other day, his workout reminds me of what Mike Welsh said about Rachel Alexander that week, that she should have run against the boys. She worked out in a way, as everybody said, White Barrio out at Santa Anita. I do. That is one time when I like the media, when they're overblown by workouts, it usually stands up. And that was apparently one of the great ones.
And it's just the rest of I think he's just, at this point, is a standout at this point, so.
92 might win it.
Yeah.
To the 10th, wrapping it up, Turf Sprint, entry-level allowance.
2 on 4 and 7, Proud Mary on top, Jonathan Thomas trainee, coming in from a start mid-December at Turfway. So there's a little bit of a layoff. But I think this horse has shown some flashes of talent, and I think it's going to be interesting in here. The last couple of workouts were very good. Golden Dagger in the 2nd spot. Couple of wins, one at Turfway just about a year ago, and then one mid-July at Saratoga. So this is another one coming off a layoff, and another one with workouts that seem to indicate the horse is on its toes. And then Empire's Princess in the 3rd spot. Dallas Stewart runner put in a nice try in a similar event down at the fairgrounds in the latest. Maybe that signals that they kind of found what this filly is looking for. So in the 10th and final, 2, 1, 4, and 7.
And what's interesting is I guess I tend to be a far harsher grader than you are early. Like I've panned the last 3 years of 3-year-olds this time of year. I think this group might even be worse than them, except for him. I actually thought, Seth, there was a chance this group is so C- that the Lexington, like I might, if somebody can get kind of good for like 3 weeks, you can, and I was thinking in the Lexington, if someone could jump forward, and what happens, Encino goes on the front end, and the race shows me nothing, in my opinion. But I think you're right. Except for fierceness, boy, I mean, so to me, it's like,
I mean, everybody's kind of looking for, hey, fierceness needs not as strong as, I don't know whether we know that for a fact yet with only the number of races he's at.
Right.
No straw in his path. I don't know whether we know that. And when he's right, he's just looks so good. And you compare, and nobody so far has been able to put two together. Sierra Leone put a couple together, but that's really the only one.
I'm going to be interested in the morning line odds after he draws the post position, because
I'm thinking those
he's
two.
the favorite that I've been looking at. I
think those two are single digits, and everybody else
is
Forever Young maybe sneaks in at 9-1.
All right. Who do you have next?
Coming up, top of the hour, racing across America, Ed DeRosa from Horse Racing Nation.
Ed. Last year, we're having hot dogs together at Santa Anita.
Very good. He also handicaps for the Keeneland website, so I thought we talked the Keeneland Stakes, but he's headed to Hawthorne for the Illinois Derby tomorrow, so we'll hit on that as well. And then John Piasek, Maryland. We'll talk Laurel, because the Tessio today, they have a few nice stakes, but the Tessio is a win in urine, as is that Illinois Derby. They're winning urines for the Preakness.
The people were talking about that at Laurel when I was there. Yeah. We got the big weekend coming up. He stays, I go, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great Saturday.
OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.